Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Macro Perspective. And today, well, we have a fun story. We actually recorded an episode with Emily that we were dealing with technological issues, and we tried to salvage it best we could with our limited expertise in back end editing and trying to mesh things together. And it wasn't cohesive, and we decided, you know what, let's just get her back on if she's available, and you were. And in addition to that, you've actually recently dropped a book within the last, what is it, 45 days or so, right? So it's like, okay, well, perfect. We actually have a core concept to talk about, whereas last time it was maybe actually some of the excerpts that may or may not actually be in the book. So again, Emily, well, let's go ahead and we'll give the audience your first introduction, even though it's not a first introduction for us.
Thanks for having me back. I feel like it was meant to, if you're presented with another opportunity, then it's meant to be. Universe had a different story for us. Yes, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad it worked out. I did just write or just publish my first book. I dropped in February, early February. And it's really all about, it's kind of a crossbreed. It has like memoir anecdotes, but it's really about it's like personal development, healing, and sort of meeting yourself where you're at. And just the book is called I Hope You Feel Better. And the whole premise is about like when we want to create anything in our lives, like we have to start from a good feeling place. We can't manifest really great things from like a low vibrational place. And it's all about just finding little reframes and little mindset hacks and little shifts to just feel our best so we can show up and create the most epic version of our lives. Because truly, like for me, if everything is possible and we have the opportunity to do anything in this life, like I want the most of it. I want more. And there's been all these lessons I've learned along the way. I'm in recovery. I've been sober about 16 and a half years. And there's so many little like tricks and lessons that I've learned that I'm like, man, this would have really helped me had I had this sooner. And I'm like, I could give this to people and save them a lot of stress and pain. And I don't know. I like sharing. Like, okay, this is what I learned, guys. Let me share it with you. And then kind of actively learning and healing in real time. So I don't know. That's living in Southern California, my husband and two kids. It's very hot right now. We're having a heat wave in March. It's like 90 degrees out. And that's it. Now we're current.
Yeah. And my first question is what did you have to remove from the book that you wish was there? I know it's like probably like a very loaded question, but I know that the editing process probably had some things that needed to that didn't necessarily fit based on like the editing process, but there's probably some core things that you may not have been able to bring in there. And I have not yet read the book, but I will read this in the coming days. That's always the first thing I'm interested in, is like that process, because obviously you have, like you just said, 16 years of being sober, and then stories that are related to obviously the journey that kind of led you here, and you trying to, dole out some wisdom to people, right? And hopefully them not necessarily make the same mistake, or maybe they're already making some of the mistakes and, need a light to guide them. So I'm very curious to that, because then as I'm reading it, I'll probably be thinking about like, okay, how would that have worked here? And yeah, I just feel like it's a good kind of opening question.
It's funny. I think what I really had to trim, anything that felt like fluffy, because it's very vulnerable. It was actually kind of the opposite. I published it and it went live, and I was like, oh my God, I overshared. Like there was like a sudden like freak out because I got really freaking honest. And it is like, I left it all out on the field. So there are things that I'm like, I don't know if I want my parents reading that. You know what I mean? But but the whole point, like, what's the point? Like if I'm not going to show up in a really authentic and honest way, I don't, what's the point in showing up? So I think what I really had to cut out was mostly like anything that felt fluffy, anything that felt unnecessary. Of course, like it's one book, so I can't tell like every war story, every horror story, but like truly if it felt important, like there was an important lesson in there, or it supported a point I was trying to make, or it was something really significant in my life, I included it. But there's just, we lived so much life so far, it's hard to put everything into one book. I want to write another one. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything like juicy I left out, but I think all the juicy stuff is in there.
Okay.
So that was quite a feeling once it was like live on Amazon and like people are ordering it, and I'm like, oh my God, like people are going to read this. There was a little bit of, and I talked to other people who had published books, and they're like, oh yeah, that's like a share hangover. Like you suddenly get really vulnerable and you suddenly realize like everyone who buys it is going to know you in a really personal, intimate way.
Yeah. And it's funny because today, this actually aligns with like some things I've been listening to where a lot of stuff is, again, very AI driven in the
Mm,
current state of, the world. And there's a lot of like lack of authenticity, right? As it pertains to, sharing stories, right? And I feel like one of the guys, I forgot, I'll have to go find the name of him. I'll search it. And he was describing like stories of like self-help books that do the best are the ones that do have like almost that oversharing quality, right? That authentic kind of viewpoint of what really led you into creating the book, right? Obviously, you want to be able to share something that you think people could benefit from, but how you actually, craft the narrative based on your previous experience and story then leads to this, very necessary, authentic type of, approach with writing, especially in today's day and age, because AI is very good at like writing something
yeah.
grammatically correct, right? M dash is everywhere, right? Like you're like, all right, prop this out, boom, M dash, here you go. All right. And it's led me into thinking in my thought process today, like, how do you go about kind of creating content, whether that's like in the video format or in a book that really reigns true and authentic? And I feel like you saying that you kind of have like this oversharing hangover, right, kind of approach from the book is probably like, yeah, like I got super deep and vulnerable, and it's literally me just putting it all out there. And everybody that's going to give you praise for how the book actually does, and the longevity of it, right? you know you won't feel bad about it because, like you just said, it's like I don't feel like I missed anything or anything got trimmed out.
Yeah.
You're probably like, I put it on my sleeve, which is like really cool to hear.
Yeah, there's definitely like this really cool thing that happened like after this. So there's that initial freak out, and I was like, oh my God, like, and then there's this letting go because it's out there, and it's like, I don't know, like, I don't, like, how am I supposed to be of service to anyone if I'm like, for me, like, relating is such a powerful tool, right? Like, when I got sober and I first went into treatment, and like, I had all these secrets of how I was living my life and the things I was doing. I was in an active eating disorder, which was like so shameful at the time. I was an active alcoholic, an active drug addict, and I had all these things that I thought something is so wrong with me. I am the only person in the world who does these things. And then I ended up in a treatment facility with other women, and we're like, at the time, I was like smoking cigarettes. It was like 2004, and we're like sitting on the front porch, like at the end of our treatment day, it was inpatient, and we're like telling our war stories, and we're laughing. And there was something really freeing and like absolutely healing about relating in that way, because it takes the power out of it. You realize you're not the only one. And I think that's part of why I really wanted to share like that, because I'm like, there's someone out there right now who's struggling, and it could be something really big or something small, and they feel alone. They feel like they're the only one who thinks this way. What's wrong with me? And I just like, the book definitely probably feels like I'm sitting down and like having a conversation. Like, I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, you are not alone. Like, this is super normal. And here's a tiny little tweak that can kind of get you out of that hole. And I think anyone who's been in a dark place, you kind of have a desire to like help anyone else, like not have to go to that dark place, So yes, there will be, and that's what I found with like some of the response from some of the people, which I'm like such a words of affirmation person. Like, I like approval, I like feedback, like tell me I'm doing good. And the people who've responded in such a powerful way, they're like feeling seen. And that is like, okay, so even if I'm uncomfortable at times thinking about what someone may or may not be thinking about what I put out there, like these people who feel like they were seen, like it's totally worth it. And it created this feeling of like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. It's all out there. Like, what else is there? Now I feel like I can show up like super authentically because it's already out there.
Yeah. You're not hiding behind some sort of mask. It's truly just like, all right, cool. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great icebreaker in a sense, right? Like you
Yeah.
feel like it's been known. And I think that the thing that this brings to mind for me was something I was listening earlier today, where did you guys know that the level of diagnosed like illness, mental, like, relating type of things, especially, like, I forget the exact stat because I can't quote all the numbers. I just know that it's like it's gone up like a certain, 2, 3x, right? As it has in previous decades. And people almost feel like a sense of calm knowing that they have something that's been diagnosed in today's society,
So many
right?
things about this. Yes.
Back in the day, yeah, back in the day, if people would go into a therapy session, for example, and they were just sad, and then just like, I don't know how to make sense of these feelings, right? I just feel like I'm sad. It's like now it's like they're coming in almost self-diagnosing like the depression, like I'm depressed, right? An actual like state of mind. And it's almost like, yeah, I'm thinking about this in context of my wife, where she's like, is there something wrong with me? Like, I feel like blah, 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 blah. And I was like, do you want a diagnosis? Like, and then I hear this today and it's like, yeah, like, it's almost like it affirms that like there is something that is inherently out of my control that I have, and I have to live with it. But the fact that I don't know what it is up until this point, right? It was like eating at me, right? Like, and I think that's where the perpetual rumination on ideas or rabbit holes of Google searches of like trying to like deal with mental health or some sort of physical ailment is like a really interesting thing about, society today, right?
Yeah, we are
And
in
like,
such a weird time with that.
yeah, yeah, and
I feel like there's a comfort in like okay, so I look back at myself and it's like I had all these symptoms of being like an untreated alcoholic, but even before I ever drank, right? Like if you like get into the definition of the disease of alcoholism, there's all these like things. There's all these little behavioral things. And when I like got sober and I started reading the 12-step literature, I felt like I discovered my alcoholism. I was like, oh my God, like I don't belong in an institution. But I do think there's this fine line where everybody, like now we don't have ADD, we're neurodivergent. Now everybody has adult ADD. Now like, you know what I mean? We're in this like almost like an overdiagnosis too, where I'm like, well, like whatever works for people, I guess. But you're like, there's a very interesting dialogue going on around mental health. And then I'm like, it's really none of my business what anyone else thinks they have. I feel like I know myself and I know what I'm dealing with. But yes, I do. I think it's really interesting. I would like totally take a class on it.
I want to take a stab at this because I was watching this Jubilee debate, and Jubilee is obviously for clicks and for, the hype. And I spoke about it with a friend, and the concept was, it was Jillian Michaels, who is like a world-renowned personal trainer, a Biggest Loser, and then versus 20 people for the body positive movement.
Okay.
And it was an interesting thing because as soon as it started, I think the third or second person, they were supposed to debate a claim, but the person just decided that like, and this has to do with like weight and around mental health, around weight and the body. And the person was like, well, I had undiagnosed issues. I've had neurodivergency. I've had all these different components. And then there was other types of people that kind of like let out the air and all this. And I was having a conversation with somebody and it was like, it's really easy to see addictions across the board in that conversation, right? Whether it be to food, types of living, a sedentary lifestyle, or different things. And then it's easy to fall into a trap of going into, I don't know, a diagnosis and then victimized by it or victimizing yourself. And I felt like, yeah, because the conversation, again, like mental health is different for everyone. And I don't want to spit on anyone's business because it's their thing, but it's like, it really feels that you're right. Like some people overdo it or over lean into it and then go like, it's out of my control, hands up. All right. And then they just live their life without any, I don't know, ramifications or any kind of, constraint on what they can control. I did want to ask about that because I feel like at some point, like you could blame everybody else and everything else when it comes to your living. But then when you decided to make that choice, like it all had to come down to your own actions, right?
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I feel like I think that's like the fine line is like, are we using these diagnoses or these labels to stay stuck, or are we using them as information so that we can, okay, so I'm prone to depression, so I know that I have to do a lot of things in my life to stay above the line. Like I do a gratitude list. I connect with other people who are in recovery. I go to meetings. I work out. I lift weights like almost every, like, you know what I mean? Like you could sit around and be like, well, I'm depressed and this is my life and it sucks. And I just like, I can't imagine living that way. But yeah, sorry, you asked me, yes, like kind of coming to terms with that, making that change. I mean, I think it's more than one thing. I think, first of all, when it comes to addiction, you get beat up enough that you're eventually like, okay, I surrender, because like if as an alcoholic or a drug addict or an addict, like typically a person will try anything but getting sober, right? Like we will try really, really wild things. And at some point, if you're lucky, you come to a point where you're like, I can't do it. I can't pull it off. Like something has to change. And I think it's all about, it's like that surrender and also like taking accountability. It's the same thing as like when people, have all different kinds of childhoods and like there's a point in your life where your parents are your heroes, and there's a point in your life when you're a young adult and you start to be like, it's your fault, you know? And then there's another point in your life where you're like, okay, so my parents did the best they could, and yes, they made mistakes, and now I'm an adult, and now I have to take responsibility for who I am. It doesn't really matter why I am this way. Like, how do I want to live my life? And I think it's the same thing with like making a big change in my life. Like, you can sit around and point the finger, but are you happy? Like, are you happy with how you're living? And if you aren't, then you're the only one who can change it.
I got to ask you, because you've probably seen this a lot more, right, Emily, especially with the people, and you probably had this conversation. Like, I'm not privy to this, but like, I think about it a lot. I'm like, there has to be a level of pain when you're trying to make that change, that like that level of pain of like the lifestyle that you're keeping up, whether it be to the addiction, to the excuses. What was the level? There has to be like a level of pain where like, okay, I'm not willing to be in this pain anymore because something else is more painful that's going to come along the way. Is it like the shame, or is it like how society treats you, or the relationships you're going to lose? Like, what was it for you that was like, all right, that's more painful for me, so I'm going to change? Was it like even your own like conscious self of like, oh, I can't do this to myself anymore? Like, what was that for you?
I mean, I think there's truly no better motivator than pain and discomfort. A lot of us will, like, it just, how uncomfortable are you willing to get? My threshold for discomfort has gone way up. I mean, before I got sober, I could get really, really uncomfortable. I could get in a lot of pain, and I just thought that that's how life was supposed to be. Like, I was meant to suffer. I don't believe that anymore. I think I once heard someone sort of describe it like when the pain of staying the same becomes like 51% more painful than the pain and fear of changing. And I don't really have like a solid thing to say what that actual thing is. I think it's an internal thing. That's why when you hear different, like I'm because I go to like 12-step meetings and I hear recovery stories, and they're just, some of them are mind blowing. But like, you hear these stories and they're all so different on the outside, because you could have someone who ended up on Skid Row, homeless, living that life for like a decade. And then you can have like a 20-year-old girl who humiliated herself at like a college party. You know, there's all these different things. Everyone's bottom looks different on the outside, but the feelings are the same. And that's where the relating is. It's like the incomprehensible demoralization, the not being able to look at people in the eyes, not being able to look at yourself in the mirror in the eyes. There's usually multiple people. You can hit all sorts of kind of bottoms. Like, I hit a lot of bottoms when I was out there. And it's like you hit your real bottom when you stop digging, you know? So you have these moments where you're like, you hit a bottom and there's a little window of willingness to do something. And if this is why on that show, like Intervention, they haul them out to rehab like right away. Because if you give an addict the night to sleep on it, tomorrow morning you go, oh, wasn't that bad? You know what I mean? So you get this little window of willingness. And if you're lucky enough to do something in that window, you may get sober, you may make a change. So for me, I think it was just, I had hit worse bottoms than the one I hit when I got sober this last time. But the inside, I was just like, you know, spiritually bankrupt and emotionally bankrupt and just like broken spirited, broken hearted, all the things, you know, and I was done, you know. So yeah, that's kind of, it's that little bit, you just have the little bit of willingness where it's like, I'd rather be miserable making a change than do this anymore. And then it's like not miserable to make the change. It's uncomfortable, but it's not miserable. It's scary.
Yeah, the dependency, like you just said, the particular types of individuals that do have more like addictive qualities and tendencies. You know, again, I feel like again, one of my training partners, for example, he's like, yeah, I just had to quit caffeine for like over the last year, and I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, like I just didn't want to like serve that idol anymore, like, you know. And I was like, are you ever gonna bring it back? He's like, I probably would have better workouts if I did, but like I just don't want that to have like governance and control over me, you know. And I look at that, I'm like, that would be really freaking hard for me, and I'm not willing, you know, I'm not willing to make that change personally, right? I'm like, yeah, there's far worse things that I could probably be ingesting, you know.
That's all.
No, but like it's fascinating because sometimes his mindset of how he approaches things, like he just like rips it off like a Band-Aid and decides like this is what he's going to do, you know. And I definitely admire him for doing those things amidst all the busyness that goes on. And then also too, like you just said, other people like that are in these meetings and they're diving into it. They're telling their story, you know, and why they're there, and you know, kind of like finding again, like kind of giving it up to a higher power in a sense, so that like, you know, you're really allowing, again, like this unknown entity to really kind of guide and shape, you know, a new belief, right? Versus the other thing that may have like had control over you. And yeah, I feel like in certain instances, the mind is such a powerful tool, right? And as Seamus and I have been health coaching now for, collectively over 2 decades, right? Like the thing that I find really fascinating too is kind of what you just said there, right? Like you have to reach that change state where, the pain of remaining the same, right, now feels like greater than that pain of making the change and the struggle that'll come with it. And then in addition to that, the thing that I've really noticed in recent years is certain people that we've had success with in the past, right, Seamus? Like they'll come back to us at some point, and it's weird because I know I'm doing them a disservice if I don't create something new and novel amidst what they're doing, because it's like the pain of this process now having little wrinkles that are different than the way we did it before helps it feel more inviting, even though it is like underneath the surface, the exact same thing. It's tracking the food, it's the protein thing. And as you were saying, Seamus, like right before we got like hitting record, like you've been eating high quality foods lately, right? And these things have been integrated, and you're like, I need to start a deficit now so I can get ready for summer. But clearly, the food that you were ingesting previously was to serve a purpose of performance. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it was to serve a purpose, but then I kind of realized like the performance was good, and then it was a little too good on the weight gain.
You're bulking.
Right.
You're
And so
Yeah.
the build season, and again, as your expenditure reaches that higher level, right, you start to just be like, it's fine. Like this is still all healthy stuff, right? And you're paying less attention to like the macronutrient kind of compositional breakdown and all those different components. And I mean, the same thing happened with another one of my clients, right? We've moved into a like once a month kind of phone call versus weekly like we did previously. She's like, I know what to do, but like I'm having a hard time doing it. And I'm like, okay, so I need to break it down for you again. And it's like, here's the new thing. It's no different, but it's like a new thing for her. And I was like positioning it with, like basically a PN approach, but like, I need you to get really good at figuring out what 35 grams of protein looks like 4 times a day.
This is, we all do.
Right. And then she's like, and she left the call very happy. She's like, God, like you just make it sound like it's so simple. I was like, well, I mean, I struggle with the same shit. So like, I'm constantly trying to reinvent how it is I'm going about this shit too, after 12 years of like tracking food, so that it makes sense for the current quarter. Because every quarter I feel like things are they're just changing. There's new variables with kids and time and, little wrinkles to what you want to do because you're chasing things. And like, I'm in the same boat as you, Seamus, where it's like, yeah, I want to get ready for summer. I want to like lean out a little bit more, right? But then there's this little wrinkle that I have with indoor soccer, right? Where I'm like, I got to perform, I got to have enough energy for that day. So how do I navigate this? And I know every morning after the indoor soccer night, like I'm always the lowest on the scale, and then like just all these little weird little nuances. And, especially because like my addictive behavior would be probably type A, right? Like I can easily become super type A, but it doesn't do me any good to everybody else around me, like my family, because then I'm overly rigid. Like you're eating the same shit, like you're down to like, you're like, why? And I was like, because I know if I do that, then it gets the outcome that I want, right? Like that's my addictive tendency. So, like all these things, everybody struggles with it in its own unique kind of stance. And again, I don't want to necessarily serve the idol of like orthorexia anymore, right? Like I know that like that does lead to the outcome and desire I want. But like, man, like in the last challenge that I did with a group of people, right? I'm like, I want to do this challenge with them, but I got to do it on my terms. Like I haven't been able to go back and commit because I just don't want that, compulsive behavior to surface. And sure enough, I'm like, I'm just going to keep monitoring every week. Is that average moving? Can I coach myself up through the same things I'm trying to get people to realize? And man, oh man, it felt great. And then end of challenge. And I'm like, all right, well now what? Like, and, these parallels of, again, whether it's alcohol, drug related addiction or addiction to other things that help you in a positive light are still things that you probably need to like put in check, and having ways to identify how to do that, I think is like massively important. And more I realize like I've been doing a lot of avoidant behavior as it pertains to work, not in a good way. But I do realize like, man, actually the thing that I need to do now is like be almost shitty at creating reels, but just create them, because the authenticity of me just going back and doing it will probably lead to a far better outcome. And I don't have to like worry about this extra over polished thing that everybody got so good at in the last 3 years. Like the fact that my reels they probably suck in terms of editing is probably a benefit now, which is like crazy to think about. Like it almost is a benefit that I don't care.
Oh my gosh, I'm started on the whole social media. It's so gnarly. But I think you kind of hit it on the head, even talking about like coaching that woman. Like, it's about the reframe. Like, how can we reframe something? Like, it's really a lot of the things that, like, I'm sure in coaching too, like, there's really amazing authors and there's really amazing speakers. Like, I think we last time talked about like Tony Robbins and Joe Dispenza, all these people, and they're all saying the same thing, but it's like said in a way that certain people can hear it. And I think you coached this woman, she did really, really well. And then it's like normal to kind of backslide or to like need that accountability, but then to be able to reframe it to her in a way that she's like, well, now that sounds simple, because it is. We complicate simple things, you know what I mean? But that's like, I think that's the whole thing, is like, okay, how can I reframe this so that I can do this thing that's really good for me, you know, so that I'm going to feel better about things. But
yeah, no, it's a good point. I think, you know, as a coach, like, I love the PN approach too, Marcos, right? Like, it's like kind of just giving them like a menu of options, because sometimes like you're on a call with somebody, and you know, it's something I've been realizing lately, because Marcos and I did this course, is like a lot of my coaching parameters around like lifestyle of like stress, sleep, and like recovery have been coming up a lot, because in the world of longevity, and I even feel like the optimized or the quantified self movement, everyone gets so particular about every biomarker, every wearable. Even women, they're like, how's their cycle? And then like, what's the mental state and the bio? And it gets to the point where it's like, okay, now we're just looking at it for the sum of its parts, as opposed to, you know, the whole thing. And I've been talking to a lot of people, and I've just been giving them like, hey, have you been enjoying the process? Have you been actually liking this whole thing, or are you just biomarker chasing, or are you just trying to like protocol chase? Like, oh, I have to hit macros because I have to hit macros. I'm like, well, why? Like, are you enjoying it? Is it something you could do? Can you keep it sustainable? And then, you know, like, stress becomes this conversation and this whole enjoyment topic. And I'm like, people don't have good stress management techniques. Like, they don't have like good enjoyment techniques. They're just like, yeah, I just go watch TV. The day's done. And I'm like, and I've been there too. So like, it's no judge on anybody, but it's like, you know, like, there might be some other things here. And I'll go on like a journey with them. I'm like, what do you like to do? Like, what are the things you enjoyed when you were young? Is that something you could do with your kids? Like, what about you and your wife, or you and your partner? And then like, we'll just go down a whole thing. And next thing you know, they're like, man, I'm inspired now. I'm like, yeah, I kind of made it complicated in the conversation, but the concept is so simple, enjoyment. And they're like, man. And like, you know, I'll be talking to people, and it's like, look, like, at the end of the day, we do complicate the stuff, like the nutrition, right? Macros, like all that stuff. But it's like, what is it that you really need to do? It's so simple, yet we make it so complicated.
Yeah, because we put like pressure. I think like making it fun, like you're right, like it, like so if you're tracking, and I haven't done that in a while, you're just reminding me that I really should. But like for me, there's this. I have a lot of like baggage attached to that, because in the past there's been this feeling of like, I'm afraid I'm going to run out, and I'm like hoarding macros and calories because like I'm afraid I'm going to be hungry, or what, I don't know what it is, but it's like I want to save it all. I want to save all the carbs for later. You know what I mean? And it's like you could make it like a game, you know, like I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
For parking, like it could be really stressful and annoying. You could be flipping people off, or you can make it like a little video game. Like, okay, like where's it going to be? You know, I think there's a way to change these like tasks that feel really result driven, you know, and it's like, but there is no there over there. There's just more here. So you get over there where you think you're supposed to get, and then you're here again. And it's like you said, if you didn't enjoy the process, and obviously there's challenges, like what's the freaking point? Like, what is the point? Aren't we supposed to, like, we have one life, and there's so many things to be enjoying and grateful for. And it's like, I think it's really easy for a lot of us to get really like oriented, and
I love what you said. Like, when you get there, you're here again. I was like, that makes so much sense, because I've been thinking about that quite often lately. I don't know what it is in my grand old age of 32 now, Marcos, but no, but like, I think about it sometimes. I'm like, you know, like, what would 22-year-old Seamus think of? Because I'm still going through challenges. You know what I'm saying? Like, at 22, I was going through challenges. I'm 32, I'm going through challenges. I'm like, oh yeah, it's just there, here again, you know? And it's like, it's those things. So it's like reframing, like you said, like, again, like you could go through the parking lot tomorrow. You had a bad time with the parking lot today. Maybe you yelled in front of your kids or something like that. All right, you got a chance tomorrow, try something different, you know, because it's here again.
The art of the reframe is such a valuable tool. And I think if you are really actively listening to whomever it is that you're talking to and helping them, again, find the positives amidst their fuck up or whatever they're viewing it as, to help them really understand that, like, you obviously chose to make these decisions for a reason. Maybe it was the first vacation you had without your kids in a while. Insert other client of mine. Her and her husband went to Hawaii right before the crazy storm. I was like, y'all, crazy, you just missed it. She's like, I know, like a week, missed it by a week. Thank God we got to enjoy our vacation. And she came back, she's like, man, but now I'm just finding it hard to get back into the rhythm. I was like, okay, well, you know, what we need to do is just try to get back to it, right? We just need you to like understand that like your momentum and the 2-a-days and the things you did to prepare to leave, it was all not supposed to be, you come back to that. That was like the lead up, right? Like that was you peaking, right? And I just need you to get back to what helps you feel really good and positive with your decisions for, you know, transforming your body, because you've already made amazing strides, right? Like, and that's honestly the reframe back to an original photo for clients that are trying to change their composition and their lifestyle is probably like the most valuable tool. And it's like, I only ever really need people to take one photo at a time when they actually need it. They don't need to do it like clockwork. It doesn't even need to be on a weekly or monthly cadence. It's when they're actually struggling the most. They're like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like I'm progressing. It's like, all right, take a photo. All right, cool. Look at photo 1.
That's crazy.
You haven't progressed, right? And they immediately snaps it back into like, oh yeah, you're right. And I was like, yeah, like it's okay. You had a down week. You do all these things. And I mean, the constant reframing is probably in my eyes, like how can I extract that and turn it on its head as to like, you obviously value how you approached this vacation or however you approached this last week with travel, you know, for work, right? Like everything you did was a conscious decision that you thought might help you with some sort of trajectory, right? Whether it's relaxation or career progressing, right? And you know, do you think that you're going to not have this again in a year from now potentially?
Right.
You know, and you have to start thinking about that. And I mean, you know, the craziest question I asked somebody was one of my clients. She's in her she's like mid-20s, not early, mid-20. And I was like, where do you see yourself in like 5 years? She's like, you asked a 20-something-year-old what I'm going to do in 5 years? I don't even know what I'm eating next week on Monday. You know, it was like, she was like blown away. And I was like, okay, cool. But maybe that timeline's a little too long. And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, like Seamus, like you just said, hey, we're in our 30s, right? And as we were dealing with 30-year-old mentors, as we're, you know, approaching into like this business, right? We're like, what do you mean you've had a client for 10 years, right? And it like blew my mind. I was like, people would stay on to do like coaching work for that long. Wouldn't they just master it at some point? Only to now realize like they're master reframers and, you know, really helping that person continue to dig in and find new things that are obviously, you know, authentic to them, you know, in that current, you know, year or quarter or whatever it is, right? So it's it was funny. Like sometimes the questions you ask that are supposed to be very open-ended and getting thinking made me start thinking about, oh shit, I don't remember what I was thinking about then. Like I wasn't thinking 5 years ahead. I was trying to think about how I'm going to put food on the table next week.
Yes.
Yeah, dude.
No, it is interesting.
Yeah.
Like even with like having, it's funny. I was thinking I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but like we went skiing and it was so fun. And I could not wait to get back to my routine. I'm like, this is great, but like I really need to get back to like what I do. It keeps me feeling sane. It's good for my mental health. But I think it's really interesting too, like when people like fuck up or like slip or whatever, like that's another place that I've really come to realize those things are so freaking important. Like experiencing any kind of contrast is, I find, to be really important because like it's data, right? Like I now know, like since the day after Christmas, I kind of went like mostly off sugar. Like I've had a couple of frozen yogurts here and there when I really want them, but I'm like, it does not agree with me. It does not make me feel good. And I cannot freaking control myself with it. Like there's never enough. It's like drugs for me. And then I like completely like de-bloated and I was like, you know what I mean? But like I needed to experience feeling shitty and like say, okay, like this contrast, like this feeling like is showing me like I need that. Like I need those experiences because again, like being uncomfortable is kind of a big motivation to like do anything. So even like when somebody, if they go on vacation and they felt like they blew it, it's like, no, you went on vacation and enjoyed yourself, but that doesn't mean like you keep having to blow it. You don't have to keep having to blow it. Like you can, like someone once told me, like if you were walking and you went like 5 miles in the wrong direction and you realized it, would you just keep going 5 more miles? You have to turn around and redo the 5 miles, but like you're eventually going to make it back the other direction. It's like, we have this weird thing where we're like, well, I fucked up, so fuck it. You know what I mean? And I like lived like that for so long in so many ways, like where it just felt like, well, I already,
That's
yeah.
That's a great analogy. I'm gonna steal that one. The other
Yeah.
analogy I like for that, Emily, is like it's like if you messed up, it's like your tire on the freeway popped, and then you decide to get out of the car and be like, you know what? Let me pop all 3 other tires. And it's like you messed up, go fix it. You know, like call AAA or like get the
Yeah.
car jack and get the car back. I think it's hard though, because sometimes like I guess like maybe like one thing for me is like, you know, an addiction maybe is like this easy to go into anger or ease of like blowing up or ease of like, you know, like complaining. And it's like that could be a sort of thing. Like that's an emotional addiction of some sort, right? Because it's like you keep defending it or you keep holding on to that identity. It's like it's hard to change there too. But like I'm running into like pain with that because like people around me are like, nah, dude, like you can't be like doing that. Like you can't be all this. And it's like, all right, the pain of changing is like, all right, trying to regulate, chill, give a better response. And it's kind of like what you said before, right? In the parking lot, trying to make a game out of it. It's easier said than done, but it's definitely that. And it's harder in the moments and it's difficult. So it's definitely there. I want to ask you this because
Wait,
kind of want to bring it back.
Seamus,
Go
hold that
ahead,
real quick.
Marcos. Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to hear, because I know you guys are talking about family, right, in the future, about how you reflect on your blow-ups to your kids of the future. Like, we can bookmark this as part of like Marcos inquiring as to what that will look like, as you know that this is that behavior, because it's made me reflect on certain things that I've done. And sometimes there's some candid moments. I wish I could just share this photo. But this made me think of it before you ask your question. There was a big life lesson for my son 2-ish weeks ago, maybe 3. He had to play against his now team that he's on with his old team for soccer.
Brutal.
Right? All the while, we thought we were going to be playing this tournament with that team because some of the logistics weren't working out. And I go over to him at, I feel like it was halftime or whatever. And I was like, I kind of cussed him out a little bit. I was like, look, dude, your effort is piss poor. Like the only person that you need to impress here are your 2 coaches, right? The one you're currently dealing with and the one that you will inevitably be on as well, right? Like trying to instill this into an 8-year-old, you know what I mean? And kind of scold him a little bit. And one of the other moms took a photo as I'm hunched over looking at him. And I'm now reflecting on this moment as to like, was I too harsh? Is this a right moment? Is this going to be a core memory where it's like, dad was ruthless to me? And in my head, I'm keep on playing back this moment. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of happy it happened the way it did, as of me kind of blowing up with him. Because at the end of the day, the biggest thing I want to instill in him is like, the only thing that people notice is your body language and your effort. No one cares what the outcome of the game is, right? Like it's a game, but your effort is going to dictate where you're going to get in the future, right? So yeah, of course, there was a little bit more choice and colorful language in the moment because I was heated and I was like, but like, I'm not ever going to delete this photo because I do feel like it will remind me of this moment. All the while he played a position he doesn't normally play. He had a great game. I was trying to like at the end of it, like let him know, I was like, dude, like you can play winger, like, you know what I mean? It's tiring, but I think you got that in your skill set, and then hopefully encourage him up afterwards. And, even his now coach was like, he told us, my wife and I, like, I wouldn't play him. I would tell him like, hey, we can't make it to that game just for whatever reason. And I was like, man, but if we just walk away from every potential challenge that my son will ever face, like that's never going to be a good thing. I want to know how he's going to respond. He's a very emotional boy, right? He wears his heart on his sleeve, right? And by the end of the tournament, where the other team that we, didn't get to play with ended up winning it, right? He was there, rooting them on and cheering them on, right? Like, and learning that like, hey, just because the outcome for me wasn't what I needed it to be and I didn't get the glory, right? Like I could still be a good supporter when times are tough. So yeah, your moment made me good.
Very similar. I have an 8-year-old daughter who plays club soccer, and we are in the throes of the dramatics.
Yes.
And like with the age change, there's a big age change in U.S. soccer and all the team. I mean, it is wild, but there's so many. But that's why I love the sport. There's so many teachable moments, and you know it is. And I'm a crazy freaking sports fan. Like I grew up in Boston, and so like it's in my DNA. Like it doesn't matter what sport I'm watching. I can watch flag football. I can watch lacrosse. I can watch professional basketball. Whatever it is, I'm like dialed in, and I'm competitive. So I have to check myself with that. But those types of moments, like. There's literally nothing in the world that will make you, like having children will very, very quickly show you where you still need to do work. And it's like in real time. And you're like, shit, I'm not
Shit.
caught up in this
I said the
area.
wrong thing. I
Yeah,
said
like,
the
I
thing
had
that I was.
moments like that where I like lost my shit with my kids. Like there's one moment I remember, like it was like, I think it was around during COVID. So like everything was effed up. And I like slammed a door and a picture fell off the wall. And I was like, they're going to be on a therapist couch talking about when mom lost her shit and the picture fell off the wall because I slammed the door. You know what I mean? Like there's just these moments where you're like, okay, I don't want to do that again. And then we get to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw this the other day. Someone said there's something about taking care of other nervous systems that makes you have to regulate you.
Yes. It's like when you're the drunk person and there's someone drunker than you and you suddenly have to take care of them and you're like sober kind of, even though you're not
Immediately sober.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm like, I got a lot of healing to do. I mean, I've definitely like our latest episode, for example, was about psilocybin, and I've had a journey there. And like people reached out. One of our members, like one of my folks, like kind of reached out, and he's like, "Dude, I'm doing like a whole thing. Like I'm cleaning up a lot of stuff." But he has like a lot of history. This person's like ex-military and different things. So like there's a lot more there. But it definitely helps. I wanted to ask you because I know kind of coming to an hour here, but like in the book, we've had this journey of you talking about wanting to showcase tools and tactics for healing. Being vulnerable was one of those things. Understanding you weren't alone is one of those things. We've talked about the reframe. We've talked about being parents and different things like that. What are some of the other tools and tactics you found in sobriety? And I mean, going to these meetings and maybe just your own personal inclinations, like in the books that are there, or some things that you couldn't really expand on in the books, and you're like, that's probably book number 2. Or things that you're like, what are like your go-tos? I mean, if we're talking about just like quick healing, getting out of a certain state of mind. I know I love Tony Robbins. My buddy loves Joe Dispenza. All these different things. Like I'm a big fan of those things. But sometimes I feel like you listen to Tony and you're like, I'm not in the mood for this kind of thing right now. Maybe the Joe Dispenza's kind of in the mood right now. Or like I love a lot of Brene Brown, like vulnerability, but it's not shame. It's guilt. I mean, there's so many different things that I've been working on, but what are some things that you found to be really powerful for you and you'd love to share?
I think like first understanding, like, I think it's funny. Like, I think so like the space that I wrote the book from is like in process. And because like what I felt like before writing this book was like, I love a good like transformation. I love a before and an after, but there's a lot of like before and after, and we don't really talk about the middle, and we spend our whole freaking lives in the middle because like you were saying, like life is always going to be happening. You know what I mean? Like who do I want to be in that? But it's like there's always going to be stuff like, and it's not happening to me. It's just happening. Like that's what life does. And I think one of the things that was really powerful for me was understanding like it's like understanding that we are never stuck any one way. Like I did not know that like we could change our beliefs, right? Like our beliefs are just thoughts that we practice over and over and over again. And so I had a lot of stories about myself, a lot of beliefs about myself. I'm just this way. I'm hot-tempered, like all the things, right? Like, and they're really excuses, but I didn't know that they were excuses. I didn't know there was a way to be different. So I think understanding that, like we can rewire our brains and we can choose something different if it's not working for us. So like I used to have this old belief that like I'm bad with money. And I'm like not bad with money, but it was just this like disempowering thought. And I had to really kind of unpack it and understand why I felt that way. And then create like a new dialogue around it and practice that. And like even like developing a relationship with a higher power. Like I, for some reason, thought that like, and I'll use the word God, and hopefully that doesn't like alienate people, but like I really thought like God was really punishing and God was going to come and like pull the rug from under my feet. And I'm like, that's like, how am I supposed to trust something that does that? Like, it doesn't have to be like that. And I had to really like reprogram my thinking around what I wanted that concept to be. And I think that's one of the biggest tools is like designing my own beliefs, like asking myself, what do I really want to believe? And it's like the way that we experience life is like just the way we are perceiving it. So like, for instance, like this past October, so my husband unexpectedly found out he had testicular cancer. And this was not on my freaking bingo card. And, but what happened was, and he's fine. Like he did the surgery, he did it on chemo, and he's doing really, really well. He's back in the gym, the whole thing, right? Like, but like you could sit there and be like doom and gloom and this is happening and I can't believe this and da-da-da. And there was a little bit of like, holy shit. But there's also this like really incredible thing that happened where like community showed up. And, you know, he's sober as well. He hadn't been going to meetings in like a year. And he started going to meetings again. He started talking to his guys again. He got plugged in. He started turning off politics and turning on more positive, empowering things to listen to and to feed his brain. And so like all these things that happened, like I got to experience what it feels like, because I'm really good at like showing up for people, and I'd way rather be the person like praying for you than people like praying for me. Like, you know, it's easier. I'm like, oh, that sucks. I don't want to be going through that. But like we all take our turn in the fucking barrel. And so it was a really beautiful season of also like I found out my resiliency. Like I fucking stepped up. It was all like during Christmas time, and I'm like got 2 kids and I'm doing all the things, and like fuck dude, like it ended up being this, it's just like a positive, I mean it sucks, it's cancer, but it's also like life, like the things that happen in life occur in the way that we just like perceive them, you know what I mean? And I for sure don't want to live in a victim-y headspace, because there's like, what I'm always trying to do is like reclaim my power in the situation, which is like another tool of like recovery in that same lane is like, so I get into conflict, right? And the first thing I want to do is say, fuck you. And then I have to pause and I have to pull back and go, what's my part in this? Because I always have a part. And that did not come naturally to me. I didn't come out of the womb like a person who's like, what's my part? I was like, nope, fuck you. I'm never going to talk to you again. And that's a really, really powerful tool for me, is that I am really able to, I can have my emotional reaction on the inside, but then once I like kind of settle in, I am able to like pan out and figure out what's my part here. Like I have a part in this, and then to either like make the apology or change my behavior. But these are all like things that give me my power back. I don't like feeling like I don't have choices. And I don't like feeling like I don't have a power in the situation. So I think a lot of these reframes, a lot of these like shifting of beliefs and little mindset hacks, and these are things I for sure touch on in the book, are like designed, they're selfish. Like they're designed to make me feel better. Like I want to feel good. Because also like I can't have the things I want in my life if I feel like shit all the time. Like I know that, like in my core, it's like a belief now, you know?
Yeah. Seriously, thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad that your husband is all good.
Yeah.
Cancer is no bueno. I wanted to ask, because you said something about apologies, and I've been thinking about apologies lately for some reason, because I saw a trailer with like Keanu Reeves and he's like apologizing. It's like a movie that he's apologizing to everybody. It's like a new movie coming out. But I want to ask, like, I feel like on your journey to being sober, there's probably been a lot of apologies, right? What is an apology really? Like, is it to help appease the person and make them feel better? Or is it to make you feel better? Or is an apology like a commitment of like, hey, I'm seeing what I did wrong in your eyes, and I'm stepping up to act and behave in the way that's going to be beneficial for both of us?
I mean, to me, an apology is a verb. It's like an action. It's not just, I mean, you could say, I'm sorry. And then if you do the same behavior again, it's like, okay, like you're like, to me, it's like, and this isn't I mean, there's so many different things that can happen. Like there's things where you know you fucked up. Like we all have those moments, and it's like the apology is, yes, you say the apology, and then it's like you show up differently. You do whatever you need to do to like do the work to not be that person. To not like, one of the biggest tools of parenting is I apologize to my kids. I tell them when I've messed up, because I want them to know that like we're human. We're gonna mess up, and then you own it. And then you take accountability. So like now I don't slam the door, you know what I mean? Like I don't slam the door, apologize, and the next day slam the door again. And then there's times where for me, like I'm apologizing because you felt hurt by something. I may not agree that what I was saying was hurtful, or that it came from a hurtful like intention, but like I can own that like you felt that way, and I don't want to make you feel that way. So I think it's accountability, like an accountability, and also backed up with some sort of action. Otherwise, don't apologize. Just say no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Probably gonna do it again.
No, no, for sure. I feel like that's part of like the journey in change, right? I feel that in behavior change, and this is like, to take like the coaching example that Marcos and I do, like I tell people all the time, I'm like, you're probably about to embark on a journey working with me or someone like me, where you're actually going to change the people you spend time with, and you may or may not apologize for the changes you're about to make, like because you are actually going to alienate people, not because it's your plan, but it's because you are changing, and people will feel different about that. And that's fine, because you're benefiting your health. Yes, it may put relationships or certain things under a different light, but you have to accept that and come to terms. Just because change is inevitable, but is that change happening to you, or at least you helping it out just a little bit in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people get scared when some certain people make positive changes in their life too. I'm sure that's a very real thing you hear about in coaching. But then that's like our triggers are our responsibility. So it's like if somebody is triggered by somebody getting healthier, that's their work. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not your person. It's not your people.
Yeah. I've seen it too far often, you know. I know Marcos has probably seen it with his clients, and he's probably called out people too. Like, I think you might be spending time with the wrong people.
I mean, coming to terms with that is literally, that was the conversation right before we got on this call. I'm like, certain things about the people of your current peers, you're probably isolating yourself a little bit more because where you want to go, they're not coming along. And they are fun to be around when you're getting together at the lake, but like the other parts of the day, it's not something that's like serving you. You know, and again, like you're saying, apologies. Like, you don't have to apologize. Like, you're unapologetically going after things that matter to you now. Your health, right? How to make these little subtle changes, how to understand food at this level, how to be in a place where you're the most competent version of yourself, because you take that into your workplace, you know?
Yeah.
The thing that kind of sucks for him is that, like, with the work that he does, you know, a lot of the people that he's around, they're unhealthy. So they're giving him backhanded compliments. They're like, "You're skinny now, dude. Like, what happened?" They're like, you know, like, "You used to be this rotund dude." And I'm like, we're never really that big to begin with, man. Like, you were holding mass for sure. Like, I mean, but you were by no means like fat by any standard, right? But, you know, now it's like just a whole different version. And it's been interesting to kind of go on this journey and arc with him. And I've actually done it with his sister. And his sister was one of the first guests on the podcast, actually, right? And so it's been, again, like the human desire to like appease other people is a very interesting one, right? You know, at the end of the day, you kind of got to do it for yourself, and you got to kind of learn, right? You know, the apologies, like, I suck at apologies. Like, my wife will tell you, is like, you never apologize for shit. And I'll say this, I'll own up to this. Like, I said some hurtful shit to her probably 2 weeks ago, and I was like, fuck, like, it may have been authentically me. Like, how am I supposed to actually like genuinely express what my problems are with what's going on if I don't actually say it, right? And I said it. Again, this is why they have the rule, Emily. This is why they have the rule in soccer where it's like, hey, you got to sleep on it for at least a day, right? You got to sleep on it and give it 24 hours before you make some sort of like comment to your coach in the club, because like there's that emotional visceral response.
For sure.
And then there's also like how you need to process that. And she also got mad at me because as we were going through that change with my son, she's like, why aren't you like stepping up and going and calling all these people? I was like, well, I don't even know what the process is here. Like, there's you know, quote unquote policies and procedures we should probably follow so we don't look like fucking assholes, you know, all along the way. And I'm very much that type of person that looks to try to think about all the potential, you know, like trees and bifurcations that are going to occur if I choose one of these different, you know, quote unquote solutions, right? And that's what, again, I took it a step too far. My apology the next day, you know, we didn't we didn't talk, Seamus. We didn't talk for like 24 hours. We didn't say a word. We didn't text. Like,
It was one of those. It was one of
because
those.
I needed to process like how I need to go about like explaining how I was feeling. And oftentimes, like, that's actually where I will truly write something. Like, this is where like I wrote it down on a card to express it as to like, you know, the way I felt, how I said the things were, you know, were not intended to hurt your feelings in the moment when you're crying, and your feelings are obviously hurt, as, you know, we've been going through this relationship now for 9 years, right? Like, you know, I don't know how to, there's nothing I can say in that moment that's going to fix the problem, right? There's no apology to be given there, but the expression of the actual thing in the right way, in the right manner. I wrote it down. She sent a text message saying, "This is the first time in 9 years that you've made my feelings feel validated in a way that was like super meaningful." And, you know, that ended up being like probably like the best thing that could have come of that. Like, I gave it time, mulled it over, wrote it down, talked about the things. While I said things that were obviously hurtful, it was not to be from a place of hurt as much as like a place where I want us to grow. And I think, again, like, do I feel better that I said the things? You know, like, yeah, all right. Like, you know, like you just said, like, I hope you feel better, the title of your book, right? Like, I hope that she does. And now I know that she feels better as a result of me actually expressing those things. But in that moment, as you're going through all these, you know, like you just said, behaviors or these habits or how you normally will kind of like go about things from your learned environment, right? Like, I try to preserve a lot of things for like the right moment, because if I don't do it, then it just feels meaningless. So for something to be meaningful, it's like not the, I'm not the type of person that's going to be writing down the sweet nothings all the time, because then it loses that ability to actually like yeah, exactly. Right. So,
sometimes
yeah, again,
it is like, or texting is actually like, I feel like more effective because it takes all the like
emotional
out, and like you can receive it.
Yeah, the tone. Yeah, the tone. It's more like
there's
it's more
text
logic.
tone in our generation.
Yeah, sometimes I'll accidentally have something like on the what's the like when it's all capital, and she'll be like, "Why are you yelling?" I'm like,
"Why are you yelling at me?"
It's not even yelling. It was just in all capitals, but it's just words. But no,
Yeah.
it happens, dude. Marcos, that's a great story. I'm so glad that, man, over 9 years, that you and Britt can kind of come to like a culmination of like, oh, wait, you found some new data, kind of like what Emily says about data, of like, hey, this is how maybe I could remedy things now, like this is something new for you, brother.
Or like
So,
in
that's
those
good.
moments, like there's times where like I'm mouthy, like, and I'll shoot my mouth off and I'll give my opinion when nobody asked for it, and it's like that's kind of like not necessary. There's literally times where I'm like, just keep your fucking mouth shut. Like I have to tell myself, like, you know what, like literally shut the fuck up and don't say anything. Like so many times for me, because I am such a like opinionated mouthy person, that it's like sometimes no action is the best action, and that pause. And then next time, like maybe I just would, like there's been times where I'm like upset about something, and if I speak in that moment, it's never going to come out right. And then if I wait, like I'm able to communicate,
Yeah.
this pissed me off, but like let me say it in a way that you could actually hear it.
I need more of that.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or however that story goes, right? Like, and again, in that moment, like these critical things and like types of behaviors that you're again so accustomed to, it's like, oh well, like again, like I think you can always surprise your partner in a sense where, like you just said, like you said, you got this thing on your bingo card, and you're like, all right, cool. It means, I'm sure a million things went through your head of all the potential outcomes of going on, but inevitably you chose to stick with like, we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
Right? There's no world that I view that we are not getting through this thing. Right. It's almost like having a kid mindset can sometimes be the best thing that happens when you're dealing with some sort of like level of burden with that. Like, I know my mom tells the story, she's now over, I think it's 20 years. Yeah. 21 years breast cancer survivor. Right.
Wow.
And she tells the story about how she felt like God was showing her that her time on this planet was done because I figured out how to do everything by myself in 6th grade. Went and shop for my own clothes. She's like, he has autonomy. He doesn't need me. And she felt some type of way. Right. And all the while I look back and I was like, well, I didn't know any different. I was just trying to be helpful to you, Mom. Like, like I noticed that I know that you were going through shit. I witnessed these changes and these things obviously occurring, right? Asking these questions. And, it then makes me realize, like, if you can approach it as a kid and thinking like, together you guys can get through any type of obstacle like that, it's massively impactful. And yeah, I mean, obviously I'm glad to hear that, like you said, your husband was able to, go through the chemo and, respond to it, because it's not a guarantee for sure. I know that modern science has gotten a hell of a lot better, but that lives in my head rent free. My mom telling that story, how I went through those things, right? Just like that moment with my son, there's these instances where you get these types of like emotional, responses from these moments that are so critical. And again, would that have led potentially, if I did lose my mom in that point, like would I have had a different outcome? No one to correct me when I was making dumb decisions, doing drugs as a kid in high school, right? Like, not saying, hey, it's like, I understand that you're curious. Like, like a lot of these like little life lessons that then happened as a result of my mom. Yeah. It's crazy to like think about all these different potential outcomes.
It is. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I kind of try to remain like delusionally optimistic. It's probably so annoying for some people, but like, why not? I want to be delusional. I want to be optimistic. I once heard someone say that worrying is just like praying for more of what you don't want, because you're putting your energy on there. And I'm like, we have moments, like there's scary moments, but it's like, I don't want to give it power. Like, I don't want to attract more of it.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's, you got to acknowledge like hard feelings and hard moments. Like you can't skip them, which I've tried to do.
Yeah.
My whole like doing drugs and alcohol was like trying to bypass uncomfortable feelings. But like, give yourself that pause to feel it. And then it's like, okay, like, what do I actually want to have? What do I want to happen? What do I want to create? Like, why not the best possible thing? Why not,
Yeah. I think I heard this quote once. Yeah, I heard this quote once. Ignorance is not just bliss, it's paradise. But like, know the thing and then just lock in on like the thought process you want.
Choose to manifest that energy in the right area. Like you said, be freaking overly optimistic and let that be your archetype because you don't know any other way to try to get through things. Like you're saying, Seamus, like, again, I think like even, again, reframing it, like you reframed it like, hey, you know, we were meant to deal with this thing together as a family unit, right? It was supposed to probably bring you back to connecting with those other men in your life that obviously you get value from, right? There's so many things that like, again, you could have slipped back into those other behaviors. And, you know, maybe that's also where like, a new journey or new chapters of the next book start to kind of arise as a result of it, which is, amazing. And that's what this is, right, Seamus? Like we're doing this to kind of document different changes. I mean, I know Seamus was scared about a year ago as he's getting this opportunity to move to a new job, right? And
dude, yeah. I mean, everything was
right?
scary. March last year was a 3-month lead up to my wedding. Marcos saw me. I was like, stress the fuck out. Sorry for the language.
It's like it's coming to a head. It's all coming to a head.
Everything was coming to a head. I've never felt stress in that way. It felt just always looming. And like Emily, you kind of was talking about, like, there's no pressure really brings out who you are. And like I was having moments of like, yeah, that's not who I really am. I mean, that's how I'm responding right now, and I'm trying to respond better. Being a little snappy, being all this, and working on all those things. I'm still working on a lot of those things, but like, man, yeah, I've never felt that level of stress. And then, yeah, then came like the marriage, then came like the new job and like all these new things, and everything's been on the up and up, a lot of change. But then you kind of realize, like, kind of what you said before is like, all right, all this change, is this just happening to me, or can I make some inference with it? Can I work with it a little bit? Can I do that? And I think slowing it all down, working on my healing. I've been working on just my healing a lot. Like I've just been trying to, again, regulate my nervous system. I fixed my gut. After the wedding, my gut was messed up, straight up. I was telling Marcus, I'm like, yo, this ain't right. Like, working on a lot of things. I'm just trying to work on my behavior. And I feel like slowing down for me and the healing process, kind of in your book and everything, is just like realizing, like, man, I have a lot of behaviors that are like, I just go to them, and you could say they're addictions of some sort, whether it be the doom scrolling and just like watching TV for hours just because I'm trying to de-stress, when it's like, is that really refreshing, or are you just trying to like waste time? And I've just had to think a lot, because I feel like a lot's coming. And I know Marcos is like, has more words of wisdom as a father than me, but I'm like, I'm getting to that point, I'm getting to that point. And a lot of things I've been thinking about, I'm like, yeah. I'm not a dad yet. I'm like, how does a dad act? Because I only had like a one dad figure in my life for certain time, and I didn't really feel that way. So like, there's a lot of things I'm like working on right now, and I'm like, it's all coming to here.
Like self-aware and doing that work, like you're doing better than you think, for sure, and you're doing better than most, because a lot of people don't want to take a look at those things. And I'll say it, like you said, it made me think of like one of my very, very favorite like reframes is that like, this is not happening to me, this is happening for me. And that is like so powerful, because then it like changes, it's you're again, takes you out of the victimhood and it puts you in the driver's seat. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I follow this girl on Instagram, and she went through like a gnarly cancer journey during COVID. Like she's got 5 kids by herself. She's like a TikTok girl, and she was like dancing her way through cancer, and she called her cancer an opportunity. And I was like, holy shit, if this chick can like phrase it that way and look at it that way, like you can frame anything that way, like and now she's in remission, and it's very inspiring.
Anything dire like that. Well, Emily, seriously, like, wait,
Seamus,
we're coming up. Go ahead, Mark.
I know.
You wrap it up.
No, I wanted to just riff on that last thing that you said about father figure, right? And obviously like all the worries about that, because that particular influence in your life was not the typical experience, right? We're going to constantly fuck up as parents, right?
Yeah.
And it's literally just like Emily's saying, it's like, how are you going to respond to the situation and deal with it and learn from it? And we can all sit here. I mean, Emily wrote the book, and as she's writing it, she's probably getting new, insight as to like how she approached it then and how she would approach it now, and laughing at it as she's telling the story about like her responses. And, I'm telling my little isms as well. And we're looking to other people that have gone through some sort of struggle as words of wisdom, but they're not gospel. They are anecdote to help you understand that in a time of need, you won't approach it in the exact way that they wrote it in the book, right? With the cheat codes or all the things that are there, but rather how you're going to sum it up and make sense of it. And I think for you, making sense of what will come, as you have expressed to me that you definitely want that like fatherhood thing. You're like, man, I remember I was talking about this, and it's like, oh yeah, like he was kind of right about this, or he's kind of wrong about that, right? Like you have to. Wisdom is something that you have to experience through hardship, right? Like as Emily was like really talking about, like you got to go through it yourself to really kind of help understand it. And I think having a forum like this where we can talk to other people and bring emotion and authenticity to the plate is so freaking helpful. And
Yeah, dude.
You're as you get to that next journey, it's cool. And I'll say this, new dad, Zach, right, has been on the podcast before, right? He called me. He's like, why didn't you tell me that opening a gym with a child would be like I'm operating at 40% all the fucking time? I was like, it wouldn't have mattered. I know that it feels that way. You're constantly getting pulled, and then you got to deal with this and logistics and blah. It's like, but it doesn't matter what I would tell you. You got to experience it. Against everybody's probably better judgment to then open said gym. You wanted to do that anyway. You already knew this was going to be a challenge. And he's like, you're so right. But like, I was like, and he's like, it's difficult, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm interested to get back and talk with him because he called me.
Get him back on.
Get him back on. Talk about, hey, like, what's up? You opened the gym, yada yada.
Yeah, I saw it, Sims. Looks freaking phenomenal. No, seriously, Emily, thank you for being here. I got to order the book. Emily, can you just kind of guide the audience? Where can people find the book, people find your work, and where they can find you?
Wait, should I do it?
Yeah. Let's go.
Dang.
I Hope You Feel Better. You can get it on Amazon. Just look up I Hope You Feel Better, or you can find it. All my stuff's linked like via my website on EmilyMcAllisterWriter.com or Instagram, Emily McAllister _ everything's linked. And yeah, like it's super fun and super exciting. And I'm just I'm stoked it's out there. I'm stoked to be able to talk to people about it. And I hope you feel better.
And there it is. I got the Amazon.
Yeah.
It's ordered. It's ordered. Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
It's on Amazon on Kindle and paperback. And I should show you my giant microphone. It probably looks like yours.
You doing an audiobook?
Podcaster friend of mine, or I don't know if she's still podcasting, but I'm gonna record the Audible because so many people listen. Like I listen, but I'm doing.
I'll get on Audible too. Yeah, because I love the Audible.
Yeah, I do too.
I love it too, Emily. If you could make it so, I think if it's unabridged, right, like when you might insert a little bit more of like your own elements of the story. Like I personally like that, even though it throws me for a loop as I'm trying to like read and listen, because there's something about like the author.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah, because ask about like if there's 2 iterations you can do, because sometimes it like brings back that story as you're rereading it, and people.
And the regular version.
Kind of, yeah. And like to me as a listener, because I really prefer listening as like my medium for what I'm like trying to ingest information. I personally really like that. And of course, other people have their opinions, but nothing beats like the author reading it, because then you have like the tone, the tonality of how it was meant to be versus some, dry British guy that's like, obviously.
Like, are you going to have someone read it? I'm like, no, they're going to read it wrong. Like, I got to make sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also, you could have AI. I'm like, I'm not having AI do it. I don't want any, like, and then one day, hopefully, the next book will be, I'll have a team, but right now we're a one-man show. So it's like, that's why.
Is it going to be like, I hope you feel better? What? All right, you're feeling good now. I feel like the titles are like, I hope you feel better. That's book 1.
Yeah.
Book 2 is like, you feel good now. What's next? I don't know.
I have a working title for the second book, and I'll just keep it. But it is.
Keep it. We'll see it in a year or 2.
Really
You'll come back. Yes. You'll come back.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Seriously. I feel like, I think there was technical things on the last one, and this was so much smoother, obviously 100%. The story here, the book, all this, I think people can find that. And I really love just the authenticity. I think Marcos and I started this just because, there's so many reasons, but authenticity is always the thing that we talk about. I think as time goes on and the world is changing, human connection, the things that make you human, the thing that make you who you are, go lean into that even more. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the stories of the people that we bring in here, this is why I love this thing with Marcos. Like the weekly stand-ups that we're trying to get onto this is like, dude, like what's going on this week? Like, that's it. Like we're not, it's like for us, it's just so powerful of like, oh, we're just connecting to the humanity of all of it. So we appreciate it. Anyways, guys,
links will be in,
Marcos,
links are down below. Links are down below. Go ahead and get a copy of it. Go help support, everybody that we bring on so we can continue to find ways to potentially monetize this thing after however many years. It's going to be a slow churn and burn, but, inevitably we'll be able to just have some sort of like promotional product that then pays the corporate side of things. But authentic conversation. We hope everybody else here will feel better as they read I Hope You Feel Better, and understand how to kind of, deal with all the little isms, that Emily has to provide from her context and point of view. And, I think in the summary of it, it says, these are not polished theories from, from the sidelines. These are tools for you to reach for when life is still happening, when your heart breaks, when your identity shifts, when everything feels like it's falling apart and somehow rearranging itself at the same time. With that, everybody, I bid you adieu. Thank you. And until next time.